So the COVID-19 pandemic, it was a massive economic storm, right? It brought the whole world to a standstill. So how does a country like Jamaica stay afloat? Well, a huge part of the answer is its National Development Bank, the DBJ. In this explainer, we're going to break down exactly how they navigated that crisis.
Okay, so let's set the stage here. The year is 2020, and just like everywhere else, Jamaica gets hit by this massive economic shock. The International Monetary Fund, they didn't pull any punches. They straight up called it the Great Lockdown.
And this chart, wow, this chart of Jamaica's GDP really paints a picture of what that shock looked like. I mean, you can see the line, it's holding pretty steady for years, and then, boom, 2020. That's not just a little dip, that's a cliff. This was the kind of economic hit the world hadn't seen in decades.
And if you want to put a number on that cliff, here it is. The country's GDP contracted by a staggering 10.2%. For an entire economy, that is a serious body blow.
And if you're wondering where that blow landed the hardest, look no further than tourism. The hotels and restaurant sector, which is, a huge pillar of the Jamaican economy, it fell by an almost unbelievable 52.8%. Just think about that for a second. More than half of the sector, gone.
So here's the bottom line. With the economy in an absolute freefall, the country needed a stabilizing force. And that's where the Development Bank of Jamaica comes in. This wasn't just about hunkering down and weathering the storm. It was about actively steering the ship right through it.
But here's the thing. Before the DBJ could help the country, it first had to help itself. So the first part of their response was a super rapid internal transformation, a full-on digital pivot.
And there was absolutely no time to waste. With offices shut down, the bank had to figure out a whole new way to operate, right? They had to keep their own engine running so they could help fuel the rest of the economy. The pressure was just immense.
Now, the key thing to understand here is that the DBJ wasn't starting from absolute zero. They actually already had a digital strategy in the works. The pandemic basically just forced them to slam their foot on the accelerator. You can see the main pillars of that strategy right here. Everything from automating processes to making sure business could continue, all of it built on a super secure foundation.
So what did that actually look like in practice? Well, the bank got its staff set up with laptops for remote work, they beefed up their secure VPN, rolled out a whole suite of online collaboration tools, and crucially, they doubled down on cybersecurity to protect all that critical data. They didn't just survive, they actually built a resilient, remote-first operation from the ground up.
All right, so with its own house in order, the DBJ could finally turn its focus outward. The new mission? Support the absolute backbone of the Jamaican economy, all of its small businesses.
And when we say small businesses, we're specifically talking about what are called MSMEs. That stands for micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. These are the little guys, the mom-and-pop shops, the startups. They are the real engine for jobs and innovation in Jamaica. And of course, they were also the most vulnerable when the lockdown hit.
So one of the DBJ's key weapons in this fight was a program called Ignite. And get this wasn't a loan program where you have to worry about interest payments. Nope, this was a grant program designed to inject pure cash, a real lifeline, into promising, innovative young companies that desperately needed it.
So how much cash are we talking about? The Ignite I2 program alone approved 77 million Jamaican dollars in grants. That is a serious injection of capital right when it was needed most.
And that money, it had a direct impact on people's lives. The companies that received these grants went on to create 301 brand new jobs. Now, in the middle of a massive economic crisis, that's not just a statistic, That's a huge statement of hope.
And for some of these companies, the payoff was just huge. Take the top performer in the program, a company called Edufocal. Their revenue didn't just grow, it exploded. We're talking an incredible 953%. That's how you turn a lifeline into a launchpad.
And remember, these are real businesses with real people behind them. We're talking about companies like Edufocal, which is an online education platform, and FarmLinker, an agricultural marketplace. These are the faces of the resilience and innovation that the DBJ's funding helped bring to life.
But the DBJ's work doesn't stop with small businesses. Not at all. It's also responsible for the big picture stuff. Those large-scale, long-term projects that build the very foundation of the nation's future.
And a key tool they use for this is the Public-Private Partnership, or PPP. So what is that? It's basically where the bank helps bring together the government's vision with the private sector's money and efficiency to build major infrastructure projects, like highways or water systems.
The German ship repair project is a perfect example of this in action. This whole initiative is bringing a massive floating dry dock to Kingston. We're talking over $8 billion in investment and the creation of around 300 skilled jobs for people like welders and engineers. That's a huge deal.
The DBJ is also building a greener future too. The school's solar project is all about bringing renewable energy to 30 high schools across the island. What does that mean? Well, lower energy costs for the schools and a smaller carbon footprint for the whole country. It's a win-win.
And this work has a direct impact on daily life. Just look at the Rio Cobre water treatment plant. Through another public-private partnership, this project is designed to help solve the chronic water shortages for everyone living in Kingston, making sure there's a reliable supply for homes and businesses.
So you can see, from internal digital pivots to supporting small businesses to funding massive infrastructure projects, the DBJ's response was really multi-layered. But the story doesn't quite end there.
And a line from the bank's own report really puts it best. It says that while things are looking up, the global economic situation is still, and I quote, highly fluid. What that really means is that even with all this progress, the recovery is fragile. New challenges are always just around the corner.
Which, leaves us with this final crucial question. In a world that's constantly changing, how can a nation build an economy that's actually ready for the next crisis? The story of the Development Bank of Jamaica during the pandemic offers some really powerful answers. It shows how proactive strategy, targeted support, and long-term vision can build incredible resilience. So the real question is, what can we all learn from their playbook for next time?